Now, as we take a look at the latest here, with only 2 days to go, a delegation of Trump administration officials are in Israel in a bid to make a decision whether to greenlight Israeli West Bank annexation plans or not. But regardless, disagreements in Jerusalem could end up stalling the plans. Here's the latest.
No to annexation, yes to negotiations with the Palestinians. As the July 1st target date fast approaches, Israel's West Bank annexation is still up in the air, but Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is already preparing, and not necessarily for applying Israeli sovereignty over parts of the West Bank.
Israel is prepared for such negotiations. I am prepared for such a negotiation. And I believe many Arab states in our region are hoping that we enter such negotiations with the Palestinians.
In a pre-recorded video aired at the Christians United for Israel virtual summit, Netanyahu argued annexation plans are not undermining the chance for peace, but rather underline it.
Applying Israeli law to areas of Judea and Samaria that will remain part of Israel in any future peace deal will not set back the cause of peace, it will advance peace. I encourage the Palestinians not to lose another opportunity, not to waste another century trying to destroy Israel. They should embrace President Trump's vision.
But the Palestinians are not the only ones voicing opposition to the pending annexation, or at least not too excited about it. July 1st, it's not a holy date. This is what alternate Prime Minister and Defense Minister Benny Gantz told the U.S. Special Envoy Avi Berkowitz and U.S. Ambassador to Israel David Friedman on Monday.
Whatever is unrelated to the fight against the coronavirus will wait for the days after the virus.
The coalition agreement between Netanyahu's Likud party and Gantz's Blue and White party clearly states that Netanyahu does not need the Blue and White party support at all to begin the annexation process, but the White House wants the move to be implemented with a wide Israeli consensus, and Gantz's say on the matter had become crucial. But should Gantz and his party come out against annexation, which Netanyahu has trumpeted so loudly, it would be one more disagreement between the two largest coalition parties, and it might be one disagreement too many. Gantz's number 2 foreign minister, Gabi Ashkenazi, is expected to meet Tuesday with the American team to continue discussions and get ready to make a decision. A decision, it seems, which will have a direct impact not just on the annexation plan, but also on Israel's shaky coalition.
Our correspondent Pierre Clochendler has been covering the situation outside the parliament tonight and reports from Jerusalem.
D-Day -2 for the start of the due date for the implementation of the annexation plan by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and that due date seems to be evaporating into thin air. Benjamin Netanyahu told his Likud parliamentary faction, according to the Israeli Kan broadcaster, that the due date will be postponed because of the complexities that the annexation plan entail. This is a unilateral annexation plan, and the U.S. peace team is right now in Jerusalem in order to decipher what are the contours and the scope and the nature of that annexation plan. And they seem in no hurry. They need to convey with U.S. President Donald Trump and to give a green light to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu before he can even hope to start the implementation of that annexation plan. And that's not going to happen in the next 48 hours. In the meantime, there are protest tents around the Prime Minister's office and the Israeli parliament for all kinds of issues, not only annexations by the most ardent supporters of the annexation, but who are the most vocal anti-annexation camp against the creation of a Palestinian state according to the plan, to the Trump plan for peace. And there's also tents erected by self-employed Israelis who fear for the economic impact of the coronavirus. Earlier in the day, Benny Gantz, the alternate prime minister, told publicly his own blue and white faction that the due date was not sacred and the priority was to struggle against the coronavirus and was preceding other issues such as the annexation plan, to which Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu responded to Benny Gantz that the annexation does not depend on the position of the Blue and White Party, and yet it depends on the US administration, on their green light, and that has not come yet. This is Pierre-Claude Chandler, I-24 News, Jerusalem.
Now we have a guest with some interesting perspectives on the situation here. Emmanuel Shachaf joins us now as the co-chairman of the Federation movement here. Thanks for joining us here. Now, I'd like you to explain, you've championed this idea of a federation within Israel, the West Bank here, and the Palestinian territories. Now, with the talk of annexation coming out of the Israeli government, explain to us how your idea fits in.
First of all, good evening. Well, I think the federation will be a natural outcome of whatever annexation we're going to go through with in the end. What the annexation does, in fact, it makes the two-state solution impossible, and we'll end up with a Palestinian autonomy and certain annexed areas, which will be an untenable situation. So what we suggest is that we should federate over the whole area between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean, not including the Gaza Strip for demographic reasons. Split the whole area into 30 canton states, 20 of them Jewish majority, 10 of them Palestinian majority, with a constitution, a secular constitution, and federal government and regional governments, and run a normal state, like many other countries do too.
How do you see both sides there? I mean, in your plan, having to basically rectify the differences here, seeing each other as having legitimate claims, rights to statehood, independence. It feels like we're far from that. How do we get there?
Well, we are far from that, but at this time, there's about between 1/3 and 1/4 of the population among both people are in favor of a one-state scenario. Obviously, they're not necessarily all for the same one state. But once you start talking about one state, and we've been discussing with Palestinians a one-state scenario, you realize it's much, much easier to discuss a one-state scenario than anything else, because as it turns out, both sides agree on many, many things they want in one state. So there obviously are major issues, what the state will be called and define the definition of the state. But generally speaking, this is something which is much closer to become real than people think.
I want to get your thoughts on the Trump plan here. Sorry to cut in here, but the Trump administration plan, more detailed than any previous proposal. Was it focused on the right things?
No, it's not. It's basically some kind of deal to kill the two-state solution once and for all. The fact that it says there's two states involved in the end, if the Palestinians agree to so many things that it'll never come to that. What it does, it basically makes a possibility for the Palestinians to have autonomy, not anything more than that. Anybody who looks at the maps will realize that this is not what two states can possibly look like. So it's basically a dressed-up plan for Palestinian autonomy, and that's why actually the Trump plan is bringing a one-state scenario much closer than people think.
Emmanuel Shachab, thanks for joining us here. Interesting perspectives, and of course, it seems to be a blank slate at this point in terms of what will transpire across all these territories. So thanks for being with us here this evening.